Everyone, I am Salman Nathan Satyanathan. I would like to introduce you on the history background of elections and voting. See, the first election was held on Wednesday, 27 July 1955. Mind you, it happened before the country received its independence in 1957. So this was the first and the only general election happening before the country's independence. It was held to elect members of the Federal Legislative Council, which prior to this was fully appointed by the British High Commissioner in Malaya. During the first election, the Alliance Party won 80% of the total vote and 51 out of 52 seats contested, which means they had the majority votes and they actually got every single seats in the parliament. The Alliance Party is also known as Barisan Nasional right now, in the present. Elections in Malaysia exist in two levels. The first level, we'll call it the government level or the federal level, and then the other level is called as the state level. Government level decisions are for those who enroll themselves in the Dewan Rakyat, which is the lower place in the parliament, whereas the state level races are for those participation in different state legislative assemblies. At the government level, however, voters, that is we, the citizens of Malaysia, we would choose 222 part of House of Representative. In Malay, in an easier way, we call it Dewan Rakyat, truly known as the Corridor of People of the bicameral parliament. Individuals are then chosen from single-part voting demographics drawn dependent on populace, utilizing the first past the post framework. The gathering that has the most House of Representatives will frame the government. In shorter words, what we would call is the individual or the party that has the most votes, that has the most seats, they would rule Malaysia. They would govern Malaysia for 5 years. The Constitution of Malaysia necessitates that a general political decision must be held at any rate once like a clockwork. Be that as it may, the Prime Minister, mark my words, the Prime Minister has the right. He can ask the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, also the Yang di-Pertuan Agong is the Sultan, the head Sultan in Malaysia, to break out a parliament whenever before this 5-year time span has elapsed. In a much more simpler English, the PM has the right to break the parliament, to dissolve the parliament before his party's reign is over. Now that we are done about the federal level, let's move on to the next level, that is the state level. The state level, well, the voters, that is again we the citizens of Malaysia, would choose agents for the Dewan Undangan Negeri. In English, we call Dewan Undangan Negeri State Legislative Assembly. The quantity of agents, the number of agents shifts between the various states. Each state will have a different quantity of agents. With upwards, the maximum ever was 82 electorates in Sarawak and as little as 15 in Perlis. Individuals are chosen from a single part body electorate drawn dependent on the populace, utilizing the first past the post framework. What is the first past the post framework? Well, what is the FPTP? FPTP, also known as first past the post, or FPP, formerly called single member plural voting, that is SMP. It is actually electoral system members of the electorate caste. They would actually vote for the candidate of their choice, and the candidate who received the most votes win, even if they did not receive more than half of the votes. It doesn't matter if they didn't receive more than 50%, as long as they received the most votes, they would win. First past the post voting is actually a plural voting method. FPPT is a common electoral system, especially in systems that use single member electoral divisions. First past the post can be used for single and multiple members electoral divisions. In a single member election, the candidate with the highest number, not necessarily a majority, highest number, not a majority, of votes would be elected. What do I mean by highest number but not majority? Highest number for a candidate, majority is for the party. Even if the party didn't get the majority and the candidate get the most vote, he would be elected. FPTP is a really helpful way as a benefit for candidates, especially for candidates, more than it benefits the party. And that is what FTP. State get-together supporters are normally lesser in both regions and populace than the parliamentary voting public. Usually the parliament voting public, the one that's going to be shaping the government, they would be the one be getting the most hype, the most energy. Every time during elections, during the GE, one can see how the supporters would gather up around with their cars and and how they would show their support towards their favorite nominees, their favorite candidates. There would be a lot of support Malaysians would be given. And if you see for the state supporters, it'll be a bit lesser, it'll be a bit less hype in a much more simple way. However, the gathering that shapes most of the states get together will frame the state government. For the state government, for example, Selangor government, the gathering that shapes the most amount of gathering, the maximum number of gathering in each state, that would be the candidate, that would be the party that would be controlling, frame the state government. Malaysia rehearses the parliamentary democracy with constitutional monarchy and His Majesty the King. When I say the King, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong as the paramount ruler. We do have democratic and we have monarchy. We have two types of ruling system in Malaysia. The monarchy system, that is the Agong, the Sultan, and of course the democratic system, which is the parliament and government. The federal constitution was administered with the setting up of conditions for this framework to exist. One of the attributes of parliament democracy is the detachment of forces into three different sections, that is legislative, judiciary, and executive. What is legislative, what is judiciary, and what is executive? Is a deliberative assembly with the authority to make laws for a political entity such as a country or a city. Legislations form important parts of most governments in the separation power model. They are often contrasted with the executive and judicial branches of government. Now next, the judiciary is the system of courts. It's a system of courts, also known in BM we call it Mahkamah. It's a system of courts that interprets and applies the law in the name of states, which means each state has its own laws. The judiciary can also be thought as the mechanism for the resolutions of disputes, which means any disputes within the states, the court would settle it. The executive, finally, is the branch of government exercising authority in holding responsibility for the governance of states. The executive's job mainly is to execute and enforce law, which means they would try to keep the law together so that the peace within the country will not go haywire. It has given up some portion of its capacity, for example, money-related, protection, training, remote issues, and others, as expressed in the federal constitution, to be regulated by the federal government. These are the matters which are under the intensity of state, and each state manages those issues. Next, how does the election actually work? We have known the history background of the election. Now we gotta know, how does it actually work? First, the parliament will be dissolved. The parliament will be dissolved and an election is to be held within 60 days. A 7-member election commission, also known as the EC, would be appointed by the king upon advice from the prime minister to oversee the elections. To oversee as in make sure no one is cheating with the ballots, to make sure that there are no additional ballots to ensure the fairness of the system. Nominees, that is those who would like to participate, they would deposit 10,000 ringgit Malaysia to contest a parliamentary seat, and 5,000 ringgit to contest a seat at the state level. And also, the trick part of this is they would actually lose their deposit, the 10,000 and the 5,000. They would lose the deposit if they fail to get at least 1/8 of the total numbers of votes cast. After that, they would be free to do their campaigns. They would campaign around, manifesting, showing their manifesto promises on how they would benefit the people, how they would benefit the citizens of Malaysia if they manage to get the most number of votes and to be the next government. They would do, the campaign would go on for the entire day. For a whole day, there would just be campaigns, talks, and all that. Then the next day, after the campaign day, the next day would be the voting day, the most weighted day of all. Oh, the voting, why would citizens choose to vote? Because voting is a way of citizens to choose a new government to lead the country. The Sultan do not have power to choose the government, but the people, we will have the power to choose who we want to govern us. Back then, the initial age for voting was actually set at 21 years by law experts in the UK. Why? Well, back in the days, a boy can only be a knight, a warrior, a soldier when he's 21. This is because it would show that he has attained adulthood. Bringing down the voting age to 18 has been an interesting issue as of late. For many years, there were debates, there were talks about bringing down voting age from 21 to 18. And 18 gradually picked up validity. When it became valid was after the Second World War. It became a grown-up cutoff point. Why? The US government brought down the age of enrolling in military from 21 to 18. When the war began in the 1940s, this began a rush of youngsters. A lot of youngsters who scrutinized the democratic privileges of these 18-year-old troopers. Subsequently, the US government revised their constitution in 1971 to permit the 18 years old to cast a ballot. And that is how the voting age reduced. In Malaysia, however, it was pretty interesting on how the age actually dropped. Tharma Pillai, director of Undi 18, quoted, "The society said that these people, the youngsters, are responsible for all this. All this as in, you can buy a pack of cigarettes, you can drink at 18, you can get a license, drive a car at 18, you can sign a contract at 18, even you can get married at 18. When society say that we can do all these things, how then can they say that we are not mature enough to vote? Hence, that is how the voting age from 21 years became 18 years. Thank you very much, and now my colleague Shafiq would continue.
Friend, and as my colleague has wonderfully explained the historical background of our nation and its history on suffrage, as well as mentioning the other nations that have a voting age of 18 years, minimum voting age of 18 years old, I will now go into the current position of voting age in Malaysia, as well as its analysis. And as of 2019, due to the constitutional amendment of Article 119, which replaces the term 21 years to 18 years, 18-year-olds can now vote in the upcoming 2023 general election and have their say in who becomes the next elected government. Now, in regards to this topic, there are 2 points that I want to bring up. The first point is the procedures that have been undertaken by the government in terms of the executive and legislative body, and the second point is the procedures that will be undertaken by the Election Commission to ensure that the reduction that I've mentioned will be run smoothly and efficiently in the upcoming general election. That comes from the amendment. And circling back to the first point of the procedures that have been taken by the executive and legislative body. Now, in amending an act or creating an act, what must first happen is the executive body must propose a bill to the House of Representatives. And in this situation, before it was actually proposed to the Dewan Rakyat, what the Pakatan Harapan government did was that they went to the opposition political parties and they proposed this motion to attain their approval, which was attained by the opposition political parties of Barisan Nasional and Parti Islam Malaysia PAS. And it made a more smoother transition in the House of Representatives, as when it was brought to the Dewan Rakyat, it attained 211 votes of the 222 constituencies, which is more than the 2/3 majority that is required to amend an act. And then it was passed to the Dewan Negara, which is the House of Senate, which received 47 of the 68 senators' votes. And on the 4th of September, it received the royal assent by the king. And fast forward 6 days later, into the 10th of September, the amendment was made official as it was published in the Federal Gazette. And for the second point, the procedures that were undertaken by the Election Commission. Now, in ensuring its smoothness and efficiency in the upcoming general election, what the Election Commission has stated is that they require 18 to 24 months prior to after the September of 2019. Now, the reasons that they have given is to ensure that they can upgrade their ICT system, that they also require data from other government agencies such as the National Registration Department. The third is that they require more staff and also need an estimation of, they also want to see if the voting facilities can handle the bigger crowd. And this is all stems from the constitutional amendment of allowing younger voters. This is for the convenience of these voters, especially the younger voters who will vote for the first time. Alright, so now that I've established the current position of Malaysia in its voting age, I'll now go into depth on the analysis of the reduction of the voting age. And I'll also use 2 points. The first one, I'll break it down to 2 points. The first one is the reasons why the government has opted to reduce the voting age from 21 to 18 years old, and the second is the criticism or the reasons why it was not implemented sooner or earlier by previous governments. So in the first point, the reasons why the government wants to reduce the voting age is because it was a part of the promise prior to the elections of the previous general election, in 2018, where Pakatan Harapan was actually the opposition political party, and in their attempt to gain votes, they promised that they would reduce the voting age, which was well received by the youths as well as generally the people. And now they are keeping up with their promise, hence the constitutional amendment. And the second reason why is because it is to conform to national and international laws, where they state that 18-year-olds are no longer children, but rather mature, rational thinking adults who can make critical decisions in their life. Now, in accordance to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, it states that children are those that are aged under 18 years old. And in accordance to national law, the Age of Majority Act 1971 states that the age of majority is 18 years old. Section 2 of said act. And in accordance to the law, once someone has stepped into the 18 as an 18-year-old, once someone has become an 18-year-old, they can legally sign contracts in accordance to Section 11 of the Contracts Act, meaning that they can buy a house, they can take a loan, they can buy a car, and in accordance to Section 13 of the Tobacco Control of Tobacco Products Control of Tobacco Products Regulations 2004 under the Food Act 1983. It also shows that these 18-year-olds can smoke and buy cigarettes. Now, these are decisions that will impact their health and as well as their economic situation. For example, smoking can endanger their lives and those surrounding them, yet we still trust them to have control in the situation. And signing legally binding contracts can have a legal yet undesirable implication on them, yet we still let them put pen to paper. And again, this is in accordance to the national law, the Age of Majority Act, and the convention, which states that they are rational adults who can think for themselves. This is similar to the scenario of the voting age. Now that they have reached the age of 18 years old, they can also think in terms of politics, as they can now rationally think, and as well as this is a decision that will impact their lives, similar to the examples that I've given. Now, the third reason is to empower youths to voice out their needs. Now, according to Tan Sri Shamsuddin, our former defense minister and current member of parliament, he has said that it is an important move to empower youths to voice out their needs and aspirations through the ballot box in regards to matters like cost of living, education, job opportunities, and other matters that are related to them. Now, it is important to empower them as again, this is a decision that will impact their lives in terms of economic, socially, and as well as politically. Hence, we must empower them to have a say, as well as a platform for them to voice out that say. Now, for the fourth point is to create swing voters. It is to create a demographic of swing voters. Now, swing voters, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is a group of voters that are not voters. They are voters who are not inclined to a specific political party, but can be swayed into two different political parties. And this is good, as it does not promote a sense of party loyalty, but instead they will vote for for the political candidate and party that will bring the matters that are more important to them into debate. Now, this stems from the fact that the youths have actually seen more than one political party become government, unlike their older counterparts who have a sense of accountability as they grew up with one political party ruling the nation. And it also stems from the fact that they have more access to, due to the current modern technology, they have more access to platforms that can display what the candidates and political parties are doing. Hence, they can see if the actions of those are similar to what they approve of. And this is good, as it keeps the political parties and candidates on their toes and ensures that they constantly debate for the rights of and needs of the people. And the fifth point is to avoid the gerontocracy, avoid the continuation of gerontocracy. So, Mr. Tamar Pillai, one of the founders of Undi 18, which was briefly mentioned by my colleague, he said that Malaysia is fundamentally a gerontocratic society. He cites the example of our former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad to be 94 years old and our current Prime Minister to be 73 years old. And although it can be defended, it can be argued that most nations have leaders that are older, such as Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister of Japan, is 65, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is 73, and also that these are positions that are held by those who have the utmost knowledge and experience. Yet we can avoid this. My apologies. My phone had died. I'll continue on from where I left. So yeah, it will stop this trend. What I was going to say is trend, and the younger voters will vote for younger politicians that share the same contemporary views that they have, and combine that with the political maturity from being voted early on with the modern views, it will bring a brighter future to Malaysia. And the second point that I want to bring up is the criticism or the reasons why that it was not implemented sooner by previous governments. So the first reason is because of the lack of political knowledge and education. It was actually agreed by members of parliament during a debate that voting is necessary for these adults, yet they do lack the political education and the education on politics and democracy, which is vital to vote. But the Prime Minister at the time, Tun Mahathir, has said that there are initiatives by the Election Commission to tackle this, such as the initiatives of awareness towards these youth. And the second criticism or reason why it was not implemented sooner is because of the fear of influence by family in terms of voting. So it is undeniable that these youngsters are most likely staying with their family members at this age, and because of that, they are easily influenced by the views of their family members, who will try to persuade them to have the same beliefs as they do. And because they live there, they constantly listen to the advice and the ideas that are being conveyed to them. It will create the same crowd of political loyalists and fans, which is not good for democracy, as we want, even though it's not the same as their political beliefs. And this can be tackled with the proper education and access to platforms that will provide the policies and the ideas of these political candidates and parties. So now that I've analyzed, I've explained the current position of Malaysia in terms of its voting age and the analysis of the reduction of the voting age. I'll now pass it on to my colleague, who will conclude the overall assignment for us. Thank you.
Well, I'm pretty sure my colleague Shafiq has explained the notion and the analysis of reducing the voting age from 21 to 18. As conclusion, to top it all off, voting age should be maintained at the age of 18. This is because the 18-year-olds have attained the maturity to choose their nominees. They have attained the maturity to understand the importance of voting. They have attained the maturity to make critical decisions in life. Hence, they would know. They would realize to vote. They would realize to know who could lead us, the people, in a better way. They have the ability to think. They have the ability to make correct decisions. They have the ability to do everything on their own. Then they will have the ability to vote. Thank you very much. I hope you find our presentation interesting.